Greetings guys, and thank you for tuning in to another video. If you want to learn how to install an aftermarket steering wheel on your 350Z, stay tuned and we'll show you how. Does your 350Z necessarily need an aftermarket wheel? No, not necessarily. That's entirely up to you. Some of the reasons why I am replacing the steering wheel on my 350Z is one of them is cosmetically, this particular stock wheel does have some wear and tear on it. I'm not entirely sure how well it's going to pick up on the camera, but the plastic pieces here do have the clear coat that is starting to come off. I tried to actually get it to come off so that it looks nicer and just was not able to. The wheel itself, particularly on the side here where I mostly hold it, does have some wear on it, and then also the stitching here is starting to fall apart. Same thing, I tried to actually restitch it myself, but it was just not coming together. So that's one of the reasons. Number two, when I installed my hydraulic handbrake, the space between the stock wheel and the windshield wiper here is kind of small. So one of the reasons why I wanted to go with an aftermarket wheel is that the aftermarket wheel was going to come forward a little bit and give me a little more room in here, which I really would appreciate. Not only is it going to come forward a little bit, but the aftermarket steering wheels, most of them come in a 350 millimeter diameter, which is going to be a little bit smaller than the current stock wheel, which I believe is 367. Not sure again how well it's picking up here on the camera, but you could see it is a little bit smaller, so it'll come forward and give me a little more room because of coming forward, and also give me a little more room because it would be a hair smaller. And number three reason why, cool points. Obviously something like this in here does look a lot cooler than the stock one. Now, some of the reasons why I went with this particular wheel is I was looking for something simple. I didn't want to go something fancy or just kind of odd or weird. This is from GK Tech. One of the other reasons as to going with a wheel from GK Tech is that it was affordable. These go for about $149. As compared to some of the other options out there. It is on the affordable range. In fact, I actually got this during a Black Friday sale last year, so I ended up getting it for quite cheap. Another reason for me in particular to want to go with this wheel is all of the other aftermarket wheels that I could find did not have a red stripe, but rather a yellow stripe, and the red stripe matches my setup much nicer, obviously having the red exterior to the car and then also having a red pinstripe going down on my leather shifter boot. Now, apart from the steering wheel, whether you choose to go with the GK Tech steering wheel or an NRG or a Sparco or whatever your heart desires, you will also need a short hub. Same thing with the short hubs. There's a lot of different options. This is actually a generic short hub that I picked up from Amazon. I went the cheap route. I think this was like $40 or so. I'm not telling you what to do, but the reason I went with the generic short hub is that I feel like they're all basically going to be the same. It's just a piece of metal, so I don't think that a brand specific one is necessarily going to be that much different than a generic one, and this is obviously a lot more cost affordable. With the generic hub, luckily this one did come with the wires that we would need to also make sure that the airbag light doesn't come off once we disconnect this. Now, if you purchase a hub that does not come with these little wires, you may also need to purchase separately a resistor in order to make sure that your airbag light does not come on. If you want your airbag light not to come on, obviously you could drive with it on. If your kit does not come with these and you need to pick up a resistor separately for the 350Z, they are a 2.2 ohm quarter or half watt will do, preferably with 5% or more tolerance. If you're wondering what hub number or size you need to buy for the 350Z, it's a SRK 141H. SRK 141H, and then these are in case you need to create your own resistors. This is what resistors look like if you wanted to buy them individual, so that you can make those little wires to make sure that the airbag lights do not come on. Okay, time to get the old wheel off. So the first thing you're going to want to do is disconnect your battery, because we don't want the airbag or something going wrong and then the airbag blowing up in our face. So disconnect the battery and then turn the lights on or step on the brake pedal a few times, make sure that the juice is out of the system. Next, we have to get the actual airbag off first, this middle piece here. To do that, there's a little spot right over here where the plastic is going to come off, and then the same spot on the other side. So you'll want to take these little plastic pieces off, and then inside you're going to need a T30 head in order to take these bolts off. Okay, correction, you can't actually use a regular T30 Torx head because there's a little hole in the middle of this, so it has to be a special, I don't know how well it's going to be on the camera, but a special T30 security Torx star, whatever it's called. So it has a little hole in the middle to account for this so that you can actually fit it in here and then be able to take it off. With those bolts off from the sides, now you can just pull this forward, and we have removed the airbag. So obviously we're going to unclip these and then set this aside. All right, I have to look up how to do this, but you have to basically get this black thing, the little black piece up. Took me a little bit to do that with a screwdriver, broke it a little bit, and then that will allow you to then actually unplug these. After that, just pull this out like so, and now we have access to the middle nut, which we're going to take off next. What you'll need to take the nut off is a 19mm and a bit of elbow grease. Pro tip, once you have this nut loosened, don't take it all the way off. Keep it like this. That way we're going to pull back sharply on the steering wheel so that we could get it off, and then that way it gets stopped so it doesn't fly towards you and you get in a funny accident. Not too bad. And you see what I mean about getting yourself in potential trouble. Obviously, we're going to take off the nut now, and then we'll be able to take the entire steering wheel off. And there we go. Ta-da! Worth mentioning, I am not, at least for the moment being, saving my cruise controls here. So if you do plan on continuing to run your cruise controls, they do make extra brackets that you can install in order to put this back on there. GK Tech does sell a bracket. Next, we're going to plug this in. This comes from your kit that comes with the short hub, and you could use the stock one. However, the kit one, basically the wire is just a little bit longer, which might be nice, especially if you end up running a longer spacer, an additional quick release. Obviously, putting the short hub back on, basically self-explanatory, but you're going to feed the wires through the hole here and then basically line up the dot up at the top here with the line on the steering wheel shaft. That way everything is nice and straight when we put it all back together. Put the nut back on, and then obviously we're going to retorque this down. You do want this pretty tight. A torque setting of about 30 to 40 foot-pounds should do it. Next, we're going to connect these little guys that we talked about earlier so that we don't have the airbag lights. So these just basically plug right into here from the area where we unplugged them before. Okay, we're about ready to throw the wheel on. However, one thing that I'm going to point out here, the GK Tech horn button does not actually come with any wiring in the back. So if you're using the GK Tech horn button, you're going to have to kind of create your own version of something in order to be able to have a functional horn button. Now, I picked up another horn button from eBay because, no offense to GK Tech, but I'm not planning on having the letters GK Tech in front of me all the time, so we're going to put something else there. So the one I picked up does have the wires that we need. So one of these wires, the yellow, is going to plug in here. This is the hot wire. Now this other wire is your ground, so we have to actually come up with something in order to attach this somewhere here in order to have a ground. Otherwise, again, we won't have a functioning horn button. Some of the kits that come with the short hubs actually come with a ring that has a metal piece that you're able to plug this in for the ground, making life a whole lot easier. However, this generic kit does not come with one, so what I've done is get a little wire from something I had in the garage, and then basically we're going to put it on one of the holes here, clamp it down, and then connect the other end in order to have a ground. Okay, change of plans. So when I had this like this to try to put the wheel on, unfortunately because of the space, everything ends up not being even, and it doesn't really tighten down quite properly. So the new plan is, what I'm gonna do is actually take the nut off and then basically put this and just kind of torque it down so that the wiring is around the nut, so that my ground is going to be inside here basically, and then I'll use the other end to connect it, so that way I have a functioning horn and I'm able to have a nice seal all the way around when I put the steering wheel back on. Okay, everything is stuffed in there now, and I have my wiring for the horn button, so we are ready to put the wheel on. Now when you put the wheel on, make sure that you tighten the screws in a star pattern, just so everything is torqued down equally. There you guys are, the wheel is on, all torqued down, and now for the cherry on top, we're going to reveal what's going to go over here. Ta-da! Beautiful. I just picked up this off of eBay, just so you are aware, but looks really good. Ties in nicely with the silver accents between the bolts, the logo, the hydro, the ring down here, and again here's the red mark, which ties in nicely with the red here and the red on here. So anyways, here is the finished product. Hope you like it. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. I hope this video was beneficial to you. If you have any questions at all, please just shoot a line down below and I'll be sure to get back to you, and I'll see you guys soon. Okay, so in case you're wondering whether my little trick with the horn button has enabled me to keep the horn, there it is. You can hear it's still working.